Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the wild 120-year roller coaster of Chelsea Football Club. We're talking about a story that charts a transformation unlike anything else in sports. A club that morphed from a glamorous punchline into an absolute bona fide global superpower.
Right, so let's start at the absolute peak. Picture this, July 13th, 2025. We're at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey for the final of the inaugural 32-team FIFA Club World Cup. And on this massive stage, a young, heavily scrutinized Chelsea squad absolutely dismantled the European champions PSG 3-0 in a blistering 43 minutes. They just blew them away.
But here's the thing. To really grasp the magnitude of that sweaty night in America, we kind of have to pull the rug out and rewind the clock way back, 120 years back actually, to a pub on the Fulham Road in West London. Because the real question we're answering today is, how exactly did English football's biggest joke, a club completely synonymous with style over substance, become its undisputed world champion?
Which brings us to part 1, the 100-year paradox.
Okay, so let's look at their founding in 1905, because it literally flips the traditional script of English football completely upside down. You know how a normal club works, right? A team forms in a community, they scrap for some success, and then eventually they build a stadium. Well, Chelsea did the exact opposite. Businessman Gus Mears had this massive, empty athletic stadium, Stamford Bridge. So what's a guy to do? He just invented a theatrical, big-spending team from scratch to fill the seats. Pure glamour came way before the substance.
50. That number represents an agonizing half-century wait. Despite drawing massive crowds and signing huge, flashy stars, Chelsea didn't win their very first league title until 1955 under Ted Drake. And then, incredibly, they had to wait another 50 years to win their second. So for decades, they basically cemented this reputation as a club with a totally empty trophy cabinet, big crowds, and a real knack for beautiful, highly entertaining failure.
Let's move into part 2, debt, survival, and a pound.
So decades of prioritizing flash over substance finally led to a quick burst of success at the turn of the 1970s. They snagged their first FA Cup in 1970 and their first European trophy in 71. Awesome, right? Well, right after tasting elite silverware, the club's board decided to build a massive, incredibly expensive new East Stand. And they did this exactly as an economic crisis hit the UK. To pay for the concrete, they literally had to sell off all their star players. By 1975, they were relegated and practically bankrupt. They essentially traded their whole future for a building. It got so bad that by 1982, Chelsea was teetering on the edge of sheer existence. Enter businessman Ken Bates, who bought the entire club, along with all its crushing debts, for a single, literal pound. Yes, literally a £1 coin. What followed was a stubborn, decade-long legal and financial battle just to save Stamford Bridge from property developers who wanted to bulldoze it for housing. The football completely took a back seat. This was purely about keeping the club alive.
Part 3, Abramovich and the winning machine.
Fast forward to the summer of 2003 and boom, a sudden explosive injection of wealth changed the entire economics of English football forever. When Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich bought the club, he wiped out the debt and provided limitless funds. But money alone doesn't build a champion. Enter Jose Mourinho in 2004. He walks in and basically says, "Please don't call me arrogant, but I'm European champion and I think I'm a special one." And he backed it up. His cold, unshakable confidence instantly killed off that century-old lovable loser mentality and replaced it with an unbreakable defensive fortress, winning back-to-back league titles.
This era established what we can honestly call the Chelsea formula. It goes like this. Spend limitlessly, win major trophies, and the exact second a manager falters even slightly, sack them. Then, repeat. It's completely baffling, right? It defied every conventional rule of stability. But they created this deeply embedded winning culture by ruthlessly firing elite managers and just trusting a core squad of veteran leaders, guys like Terry, Lampard, and Drogba, to maintain the standard. And it produced an absolute avalanche of silverware. Somehow, this relentless churn produced the ultimate catharsis on the European stage. In 2008, Chelsea suffered devastating heartbreak when captain John Terry slipped in the pouring rain during the Champions League final shootout in Moscow, just agonizing. But that heavy, lingering trauma was completely wiped out by an absolute miracle in 2012. An aging, underdog Chelsea team, guided by a temporary interim manager, defied all logic to win the Champions League right in Bayern Munich's very own stadium. Didier Drogba's final kick basically erased a century of nearly their narratives.
Which leads us to part 4, billion-pound chaos to champions.
So after years of hauling in trophies, including a second Champions League in 2021, the Abramovich era ended, but not on the pitch. It ended because of a massive geopolitical shockwave. Following the 2022 invasion of Ukraine, international sanctions actually forced a government-supervised sale of the club. The American Boney Clear Lake Consortium swooped in, taking over for a record-breaking total transaction of £4.25 billion, bringing with it promises of massive infrastructure investment.
But man, the start of this new era was chaotic. The new owners brought this American private equity approach to the transfer market, and it was a highly public mess. They spent over £1 billion, literally £1 billion, on unproven young talent. They exploited amortized accounting loopholes by handing out unprecedented 7- to 8-year contracts. £1 billion for mid-table finishes? The result was this bloated squad of strangers, deeply humiliating defeats, and the swift firing of world-class managers. Once again, Chelsea had somehow become the laughingstock of the league.
But out of that billion-pound mess, something incredible actually clicked. The owners hired coach Enzo Maresca, who finally instilled some real tactical patience and structure. In 2025, he guided this young, maturing squad to win the UEFA Conference League, and that is a huge deal, because with that victory, Chelsea achieved something no other historic European giant has ever done. They completed the full set. They became the first and only club in history to win every single major UEFA men's trophy, the whole shebang.
Which brings us right back to where we started today, that sweaty night in New Jersey for the Club World Cup final. This incredibly expensive, heavily mocked rebuild finally came together behind their homegrown talisman, Cole Palmer. He orchestrated an absolute masterclass to emphatically dismantle PSG. Think about that for a second. A team built from scratch in 1905 just to fill an empty stadium stood together 120 years later, claiming the title of the absolute best in the world. As you reflect on Chelsea's wild journey from a glamorous punchline to world champions, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. We all love the romance of a patiently built sports dynasty, right? But does sustained footballing greatness actually require a patient, romantic culture? Or does it simply require the wealth and the cold ruthlessness to outlast the chaos? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning and keep learning.